So here we have 6 drumsticks. If you can get them hormone, antibiotic free, or even organic, that's going to give you the best taste, and then it doesn't have all those extra things that you don't need in them. So we're going to start with just a little bit of oil. We're going to do about a tablespoon and drizzle it over our chicken. This just helps the seasoning to stick better. And it actually does help the flavor to penetrate a little deeper. So we have 1 teaspoon of allspice, and you're going to save another teaspoon for the actual stew part of it. So we use half of that here. Then we're going to use 1 tablespoon of the Julie Bakes umami seasoning. Straight there. We want to be kind of lighter-handed on our seasonings and whatnot because we have a lot of other sodium-based products that we're going to be adding. And then last but not least, we have 1/3 of a cup of green seasoning. This is a Trinidadian version, but you can use a Haitian Effie, or if you also have a Latin American based sofrito, that'll work as well. So I have gloves on first because I'm going to need to mix this. So I'm going to just get in there and kind of make sure this is evenly coated. It's not going to be too dark of a color or anything, but trust me, the flavor is all there. So at this point, what's absolute best is that you put it in the fridge and you let it sit at least an hour overnight. But I understand that sometimes that's not possible. So if you need it right away, it is best to kind of cut a little slit into it and make sure that those spices go in there deeper. So for me, I would set this in the fridge for, again, at least an hour. Next, we're going to start with chopping our vegetables. So we're going to cut the bulbs off of these, but we're going to cut pretty far down into that white part. It does not have to be very fine because we are stewing this chicken down. So you can even just take some kitchen shears if that's going to be faster for you and snip away. Alright, so 3 stalks there. I'm going to move them over to this bowl. Move that skin away. And next we have 3 cloves of garlic. Again, this is stewing down, so don't feel like you have to finely mince it or anything. You can literally just make little strips like this. Okay, so I've got my garlic. I'm moving that out of the way as well. Next up, I have my cilantro. So you want to get as much of the leaves as possible, but in cases like this, I know a lot of people are not using stems. I do not like to waste any of that flavor. So I don't have a problem with the stems. If you only like the leaves, then of course do what you need to do. But for me, I'm not going to waste any of it. Next up, we have our onion. So I keep my onions in the fridge normally to keep from crying, but another way that you can do that is you can cut by running water. Obviously, I don't have that, so let's just hold it. This doesn't make me cry. So you're just slicing it here. No need to dice, because we want those big onion slices. If you prefer sweet onions or white onions, you can also use that. I just like to use the red because I just think the color is beautiful with the green of the scallions and the cilantro, and then you have the red of the bell pepper, and then you have the purple of the onion. I love how that comes together with the brown. So next you have the bell pepper, and what I like to do is I like to just kind of cut this around. Let me see. save that part, not for this dish. And I'm just about to cry from the onion. So we're gonna just cut this in strips, just like the onion. I'm gonna actually turn it over. Chop. And with this dish, I prefer red, but this is another thing you can mix and match and just do different colors. Yellow works very well with this. Green does have a little bit more of a bitter taste, but if that's what you prefer, you can also do so. So this is all of my vegetables chopped up, and now we're ready to go to the stove. So now's the point when it all comes together. I have my stove on medium high, and I have a little bit of oil here. You can do olive oil, you can do vegetable oil, canola oil, whatever you'd like. You're gonna put a little bit of it in here. It's best if you do have a pair of tongs, that will come in handy. And I'm just taking the chicken and I'm putting it in here. Now, traditionally with brown stew chicken, a lot of people will go ahead and put their sugar in at this point. I found that it's hard to make sure that that sugar doesn't completely burn and make the stew bitter, and that when I added it afterwards, there wasn't really a difference in taste. So as long as you're making sure that your skin browns here, then you'll be just fine to add it later. So you're gonna have a little bit of that green seasoning and just all of the other things you've used down at the bottom. Go ahead and save that. Once this chicken is done browning, we're not cooking it all the way. We are returning it to here to cook our vegetables, then to cook everything together. So don't throw this out and just keep your bowl handy. So we're gonna do about 5 minutes on each side. The important thing is that that skin gets really brown chicken. So we're not trying to cook it. It's gonna cook when it stews, but we really want that really pretty brown color. So we'll just turn it over and check it every once in a while. So we're not quite there. All right, so it's been about 5 or 6 minutes. Let's turn our chicken over and see if it's ready. We want it to have a nice, pretty brown color. So I'm gonna turn all these over, and it's gonna cook another 5 to 6 minutes. And be careful if the war zone over here, like oil is popping, but it's the name of the game. So 3 more. And I lied to y'all, I said there were 6 chicken legs, there are 7. The recipe will work the same for 7. But I've turned those over, they're nice and crispy, and we're gonna let that go for 6 more minutes before we add the other ingredients and stew this down. Again, the goal is not to cook this chicken. The goal is to make it brown before we cook it. So we're gonna let that sit another 6 minutes and we're gonna move on. So we're gonna check on this and see if it's brown. So it's pretty brown on multiple sides. I'm gonna go ahead and take it out. This is really important. So this is not the final step. We are putting this back in with the seasoning where the raw chicken was, but that's fine because we are not eating the chicken now. Please, please, please do not put this half-cooked chicken back into the raw chicken juice salmonella hospital visit. Please, please, please finish the rest of the recipe. So we're gonna put it back in this bowl with our tongs. At this point, I'm gonna turn my heat down just a bit. It's on medium high. I'm gonna do about medium low. That chicken actually soaked up a lot of that oil. So I'm gonna add maybe just a teaspoon more. before I add some of my vegetables. So another thing is a lot of times you'll see a recipe and they'll tell you to add the garlic first and they'll put it in the oil. To me, that just burns the garlic and it gives it a bitter taste. So we're gonna add it all together and it's gonna scream at you. So scrape all of that up. So all of the vegetables, I just went ahead and added all of them. What I wanna do is just kind of get the onion and the pepper to be a little more wilted and kind of get a little bit of browning going on. So I want to really release those flavors and for them to go into the whole stew and into the chicken. I don't want to cook them so much they become mushy and you can't really taste them. I'm going to add just a little bit more oil, but I do want some of those juices to be released. And right now, I'm just kind of tossing and making sure that all of the ingredients are pretty evenly combined. But after that, you feel like you've separated all the onions and kind of mix it together. Feel free to kind of turn it up and just let it do its thing. My veggies have reached a nice brown color around the edges, so it's time to add the rest of the ingredients. So with brown stew chicken, I'll say it's definitely a labor of love. The cutting is easy and the cooking is set it and forget it, but the labor comes with all the ingredients, but I promise it's worth it. So the first thing we're gonna add is 1/4 cup of soy sauce. So that other teaspoon of allspice, we're gonna go ahead and add that as well. I have a tablespoon of freeze-dried thyme. You can use fresh thyme as well. We're gonna add about a tablespoon of browning sauce. This is optional, but it just helps to deepen that flavor. So I also have, this is caldo de tomate con sabor de pollo, which is basically a chicken bouillon that is tomato and chicken flavored. So I cut this up. I do use the Knorr flavor. It's a little squishier than the others, and I'm gonna put that in here. And I'll tell you in a second why I'm doing so. I'm gonna go ahead and add my brown sugar. This is about, I'd say, 1/3 cup, maybe a little more than that. And I add more sugar as I go, but I like to start with about 1/3 cup, 2/3 cup. And next I'm gonna add a squirt of tomato sauce, or ketchup rather. Add that around. You can do tomato paste, you can do actual tomato sauce, but in this case ketchup works very well. It is a tomato based dish, at least the way that we fix it in my family. So this is my secret ingredient. If you don't have this, you can use regular vegetable broth, chicken broth, or beef broth, works really well. But I like to use pho broth, which is actually a Vietnamese based type of dish. But I like the flavors that it adds. It makes it that much more aromatic. I really like, I think it's more the star anise that's in it that really helps kick up that flavor. So for me, this is the type of broth that I'm adding, but this one happens to be vegetable based, so that is why I'm adding that chicken bouillon with the tomato flavoring, just to kind of make up for some of that umami taste that's gonna be kind of lacking. So this is 4 cups that I'm adding to that. So again, if you're not able to find the pho broth, then you can use a chicken stock, a beef stock, or any type of vegetable broth that you like. So at this point, I am going to just stir these ingredients together. It's gonna be sort of watery, of course, because you're not stewing it down just yet. I just want to make sure all of those ingredients are nice and incorporated. It's going to have that nice deep brown color to it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn up my heat to about medium high. And now our chicken, which we haven't eaten yet because it's not cooked, and we're going to add that back in here. And we want the liquid to at least come over half of the chicken leg. If it doesn't completely cover them, it's not a crazy big deal, but we do want it to cover it. It helps it to cook faster, and it helps all of those flavors to marry into one another. And I said we don't waste, so we're going to take the rest of the seasoning and things that came off of the chicken, and it's okay because we are cooking it. So yes, this came from the seasonings and the chicken that we had, but we're cooking it all, so it's all fine. So my last thing, once I bring this up to heat, is I add my bay leaf. And so I'm gonna bring this up to a boil. Once it goes to a boil, I'm adding the lid, and I'm gonna let it do its thing for about 45 minutes to an hour or more, depending on what type of texture you want. So now that I've reached a boil, I'm gonna put my lid on. My heat is on medium high now. I'm gonna adjust it and turn it to medium low to simmer, and I'm gonna let that simmer for about 45 minutes to an hour or longer. I am using a ceramic pan, so if you notice with the chicken, even with browning that, it didn't stick very much. So if you have Teflon or cast iron, you're probably not going to be able to do that. So you want to be mindful at what type of temperature you're using for that, just so that you're not having to scrub dishes at the end of the day. So I'm letting this sit for about 45 minutes, and then I'm going to come back, and the stew is going to be much thicker. The chicken is going to be cooked all the way, and I'm going to actually be able to eat it without getting salmonella. So be back in just a second. So we're gonna have a look at the chicken, but beforehand I wanted to throw this in. If you have trouble finding the chicken cubes, you can also substitute with some onion soup mix. This works excellent in there. Just make sure that you're balancing out that sodium flavor. So you want to add maybe just a half a packet, but any of the seasonings that have sodium, you can pretty much sub this in, and like I said, just taste as you go. Alright, let's have a look. So this has been cooking for a little over an hour at this point. It is starting to get where you can see some of the chicken is coming off of the bone. This is a great point to stop. Some like to cook it for even possibly 2 hours to where it's more of a shredded chicken taste. It's just whatever texture you would like. And I have to just say the smell is so aromatic. You smell that star anise. You smell the garlic, the onions, the peppers, the chicken, the tomato taste, like all of those flavors, you can just, all of those smells are just permeating the kitchen, permeating the atmosphere. So next we're gonna plate this so you can have a closer look. So this is a closer look at the final product. It is definitely fork tender. As you can see, we've got little pieces falling off of here. To me, this is the best time when you can still kind of hold the meat on the bone. So you're wanting to soak all that up in the juice, in the sauce. I'm gonna have a taste. So the best thing, I don't know, there's so many things about this. I know I've mentioned the star anise like 3 times, but this, it really brings out the flavors in this dish. You really want that spice in your cabinet. And I really encourage you to try the pho broth in just other areas of your cooking. You can taste the bell peppers, the cilantro, the garlic, all of that just comes together. This is amazing with some coconut rice, or even just some white jasmine rice that you make in your rice cooker, and some fried cabbage. But I'm not going to tell too much because you're going to see those definitely in future episodes. Thank you for tuning in. This was my country Caribbean kitchen.